Despite recent backlash over the relocation of the All-Star game, Major League Baseball announced Tuesday that streaming viewership is at an all-time high. I'm Madeline Burke for Sports Illustrated along with SI's Jimmy Traina. And Jimmy, the league announced that fans have streamed 1.34 billion minutes of live games in just 18 days, the most watched 18-day period in its 20-season history. That on top of a surge in viewership for ESPN's Major League Baseball package. To what do you attribute this to?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors here. What's interesting about it is the increase is not just over 2020, but also over 2019. I think, last year when the pandemic hit, all we wanted was sort of like any return to sports we could get. But I was amazed in hearing from a lot of people about how it still wasn't the same without fans in the stands. This year with baseball, a lot of places do have fans, and I think that's sort of helped. And more importantly, the early part of the season has seen some really exciting baseball. We've had two no-hitters. Padres and Dodgers have a rivalry that's going. They've played now a bunch of times. Young stars are really carrying the game. So there's a lot of good storylines. And, obviously also, I mean, it's a streaming world now. So streaming numbers for everything are going to be up. If they're not, you're doing something wrong. So, it's a good sign for Major League Baseball because obviously the narrative is that their viewership is older and it's usually young people who are streaming. So that's a positive for them as well there. So several factors involved here, and it's sort of been the perfect storm for them to get some good news.
Yeah, and when streaming comes up, obviously the conversation about cord cutters and just a recategorization of viewers comes into play. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, MLB is going to have to deal with cord cut. Every sport has to deal with it. It's something that increases every year. It doesn't decrease. I mean, if you look at the stats, the amount of people cord cutting just keeps going up. I think the pandemic accelerated it a little bit with, unfortunately, people losing jobs, cutting back on money, taking pay cuts. So cable goes, you turn to streaming. So it's only going to get bigger. MLB has MLB.TV. They've had it for a while. It's a pretty decent product. It's just a matter of, whether you want to fork over the cash for it. But they have some issues with their blackout rules, but the overall product is pretty good. So that helps too.
SI's Jimmy Traina, thank you so much for taking the time.
Anytime.